M. Major in.
He majored in finance at Claremont Men's College in California.
Make away. Make off.
At the sight of the police officer, the vendor made away in a hurry.
Make away with. Make off with.
The thief made off with Chris's bracelets and rings.
Make for.
The warm climate makes for good health.
Make out.
The company isn't making out as well as was expected.
Make out.
I cannot make out what you are trying to say.
Make over into.
Tina has made that yellow dress over into a skirt.
Make over to.
I intended to make over the apartment to my son.
Make up.
Sherry used to make up before going out on a date.
Make up.
The story David made up is incredible.
Make up for.
Her enthusiasm makes up for her inexperience.
Manage on.
I cannot manage on as little as $5,000 a month.
Manage with.
I can manage with this old computer.
Manage without.
Even if you are not willing to lend me your car, I still can manage without it.
Maneuver into.
He is planning to maneuver himself into a managerial position.
Maneuver out of.
They are plotting to maneuver the Minister of Finance out of office.
Map out.
I have mapped out a plan to remodel my apartment.
Mark down.
I marked down the name of each student in my class.
Mark out.
They marked out a parking lot with white paint.
Mark up.
Some CDs have been marked up unfairly.
Marry into.
Helen married into a rich family.
Marry off to.
Mr. Wong married his daughter off to a doctor.
Marry with.
He marries humor with scholarship in his speech.
Marvel at.
I marveled at the vastness of the lake.
Mash up.
Mash up the potato with a spoon.
Masquerade as.
The terrorists entered the theater by masquerading as moviegoers.
Match up.
I can hardly match up the torn pieces of the letter.
Match up to.
I work hard, but I still cannot match up to my parents' expectations.
Measure against.
You should measure your strength against some ideal standard.
Measure by.
A student's performance shouldn't be measured purely by his examination results.
Measure for.
I want you to measure me for a new dress.
Measure out.
I measured out 50 grams of sugar.
Measure up.
Before laying the tiles, the worker will measure up.
Measure up to.
I'm afraid you just didn't measure up to the job.
Meddle in.
Don't meddle in other people's domestic affairs.
Meddle with.
Don't meddle with the papers on the desks.
Mediate between and.
The union attempted to mediate between the workers and the employer.
Meditate on.
I sat quietly meditating on your advice.
Melt away.
When the sun rose, the ice began to melt away.
Melt down.
The workers are melting down iron to make knives.
Melt into.
He shouted at his daughter, but his anger melted into pity when he saw her crying.
Melt with.
My heart melted with pity.
Merge into.
Many rivers merge into the Yangtze River.
Merge into.
They decided to merge the two small companies into a larger one.
Merge with.
The bank will merge with another bank.
Mess about. Mess around.
We spent our vacation messing around on the beach.
Mess around with.
Don't mess around with matches.
Mess up.
Don't mess up your shirt.
Metamorphose into.
From an introverted child, he had metamorphosed into a skilled orator.
Mete out to.
The judge mete out a heavy sentence to the criminal.
Migrate to.
Most birds have to fly long distances to migrate to warmer places.
Militate against.
Bureaucracy and red tape militate against individual initiatives.
Mill about. Mill around.
A lot of people were milling around in the street.
Mince up.
Mince the meat up and cook it with some onion.
Mingle with.
The pickpocket mingled with the crowd and was soon out of sight.
Misinterpret as.
He misinterpreted her silence as consent.
Mislead about. Mislead over.
You have misled us about Helen's intentions.
Mislead into.
Jack was furious with his doctors for having misled him into thinking his illness was not so serious.
Miss out on.
Mimi got married very young, and now she feels she is missing out on life.
Miss out.
His account of his early life misses out one or two important facts.
Mistake for.
He mistook me for my brother.
Mix up.
The twins look so much alike that I often mix one up with the other.
Mix with.
Kelly is easygoing. She often mixes well with people around her.
Mix with.
You can mix blue with yellow paint to make green.
Moan about.
Many residents are moaning about the problem of traffic noise.
Model on.
The country's political system is modeled on the American one.
Model oneself on.
As a president, he modeled himself on John Kennedy.
Mop up.
Please mop up the pool of water on the floor.
Mount up.
His debts continued to mount up. In fact, he was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy.
Mourn for.
All the flags in the country were at half-mast as a sign of mourning for the deceased president.
Muddle about. Muddle around.
I have been muddling around all day and got nothing done.
Muddle along. Muddle on.
I hate the way my students muddle along.
Muddle through.
We encountered a lot of problems, but we muddled through somehow.
Multiply by.
If you multiply 4 by 6, you'll get 24.
Mumble to about.
Go find out what your son is mumbling about. Is he mumbling something about his birthday present?
Murmur against.
With the economic downturn, more and more people murmured against the government.
Muscle in on.
Our competitors have been trying to muscle in on the oil business.
Muse on, muse over.
She used to sit musing on the meaning of life for hours.
Muster up.
Finally, I mustered up enough courage.
Mutate into.
This virus can mutate into a new strain.
Mutiny against.
Chinese workers mutinied against their Taiwanese captain and killed him.
Mutter to oneself about.
He began to mutter to himself about the low pay.